Being Black in the 21st century and why Black families continue to lack the visibility they deserve. It appears there's got to be a Black Lives Matter or a Black History Month movement for Black communities to receive the attention or recognition they deserve. Black families have been and continue to make significant and positive impact in the society, however, lack the recognition deserved. Today, I'm joined by two phenomenal women, Afua Adom, a journalist and a broadcaster, as well as Eryca Freemantle, a global beauty strategist and the founder of Eatow. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. I'm really excited about today's topic for many reasons. I think putting you guys together is a perfect combination, just because I know you ladies are out there, you're having these conversations out there, very, very, very upfront with it. So I think it'll be really good for us to sort of talk about these things, and hopefully our viewers are able to learn something from today's conversation. So the question I want to ask you guys is, do we as Black folks lack the visibility and recognition we deserve?
It's about positioning yourself. Whatever you deserve, you make sure you're in that room with people that will recognize you. The people that don't recognize you don't matter. And surround ourselves with those people, whoever they look like, that will bring us up, pull us up, and have us at that table.
Part of me kind of does agree with what Eryca said. What do we deserve? And I think we do deserve to be considered on a level playing field. We do deserve to be appreciated and acknowledged across all sectors if what we do, but we have to be great at it. There's no point in acknowledging mediocrity and having Black people in positions of power or visibility just because they should be there.
But that doesn't mean that we're not doing, you don't have people from the Black community that are doing excellent, that are doing great.
Oh no, absolutely. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's Black people across all sectors of public life and not public life and private life doing amazing things. I think, yes, there's people in the upper echelons who make the decisions and are not shining a light on Black people that are doing amazing things, definitely. So we probably don't get the visibility that we deserve. But I do think we need to, you know, take it upon ourselves to not always look to the mainstream to give us that visibility. We have to give it to ourselves. Do you understand? Is that, and I know, you know, we often think of major broadcasters, magazines, beauty brands, and all the rest of it, but we also have to take pride in building our own, you know, creating our own table and putting the seats around that table for ourselves. I think that's also very important, and giving visibility to ourselves within our community.
Well, that's really good spot on, and it brings me to my next question around, and I guess perhaps this is the reason behind this next question, is why is it that the only time we can consistently get that recognition, or that sort of, okay, we're going to take a moment now and just listen to whatever these Black folks have to say, it's when it's Black History Month. It's just 1 month in the whole year. And I guess, thank goodness for Black Lives Matter movement that happened earlier on in the year. Why is this the case? Why is it that we are still not able to crack through the fact that we don't need a Black History Month, for example? Not saying it should be cancelled, but life should be celebrated throughout the year, regardless of your color. What are your thoughts?
For me, it's just a matter of your mindset. And I think it starts with the family. If you know who you are, and it may sound like I'm confident, and I'm really not. It's only in the last 5 years I've got to know who I am. I'm 56 years old, so I've lived 51 years not knowing who I am. But once you know who you are, and you realize that you can't change the opinions of everybody else. So for me, it's a matter of being around like-minded people that are positive, that can take you on that journey. Because as a collective, and as individuals, we can't change anything. And I also believe as a collective, it's going to be harder to change. It's going to take longer to change. So for me, every single day is Black History Day. Every single day, I live my life that way. It doesn't mean that I don't have any white friends. I mean, I don't respect my white counterparts. What I find is I'm educating them about us as Black people, especially Black women. So I think it's about your mindset.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have you got anything to add to that, Afua?
Well, I think you're absolutely right in that, Eryca. It's that if you have people at the top, so all the people at the top are typically, and I'm talking about my industry, and I know it's the same in beauty because we've talked about it, Eryca. The people at the top are typically old white men, right? So they only see themselves, they exist in an echo chamber. So when they see someone like myself, dark skinned, black, curvy, locks, they're like, well, she can probably talk about Black Lives Matter and probably talk about a racist Sainsbury's advert or a not racist Sainsbury's advert, but I'm not sure that she could talk about, the government's lockdown laws or Brexit. But I actually can talk about that because I have a journalist degree and I'm interested in current affairs and news. And what Eryca said was absolutely right. It's about earning your stripes, and places that I worked at, like Arise News, like Black Hair Magazine, allow me to earn those stripes quicker, so that when I was on a mainstream channel, for me, it's been an effect of once one person took a chance on me, everybody took a chance on me, and that was it. An actual example of that was 1 week, I did Victoria Derbyshire on BBC on the Monday, I did Sky News on the Tuesday, I did CNN on the Wednesday, I did Talk Radio on the Thursday, and then I think I did ITV this morning on the Friday. That was one week, and that was because one producer on Monday morning called me to talk about something, and it was a snowball effect. And it was literally one person saw me on TV, and then another person saw me on TV, and then another person saw me on that. So one person just has to believe and take a chance on you for everybody else to get it. I think it's still necessary, unfortunately, because if we don't have a concentrated effort to make sure that the historical parts of Britain that have a Black reference are not talked about, it won't be talked about. It won't be talked about in schools. So unfortunately, I do think it is still necessary, and it's still necessary to shine a light on talents, on people who otherwise would have a light shone on them at any other point in the year.
I like that. Thank you so much. That was literally, I've been scrambling away here, getting some of the gems you said. I like how you said, it took one person to believe in you and there was just a snowball effect. And I think perhaps that's what we need more of within the Black community. It's just one person to say, well, actually, Eryca is more than a beauty strategist. She can definitely do a lot more than that. And then from opportunities being opened up by one person, then it feels like the world just kind of opens up to you. And what we need to also see, I suppose, is more people, more Afua, more Eryca, more people out there doing things, having random conversation that has no bearing to you being Black, to the color of your skin or to the size or shape of your body. And I think that's really good. And hopefully we are able to continuously, and I guess on a regular basis, position ourselves. I've got a question whilst we're talking about Piers Morgan. I'm not sure if you guys saw the tweet about a barrister called Alexandra Wilson. And she's a barrister a Black barrister, probably in her early 20s.
Yes.
Where she went to the court representing someone, and 3 times she was being referred to as,
the defendant, or basically nobody thought she was the lawyer.
Absolutely. So I think it's sort of sad to see that where we are right now, we still have to keep explaining ourselves. The assumption when you step into somewhere is you're the cleaner, you're the assistant, you are the security guard, or you're stealing. And I guess perhaps that's what's been shown for so long. The question I have is, what are your thoughts around that? Are we constantly being picked on as a community to be, I guess the word is for demotion or for derogatory comments? And is this because of, again, what social media keeps perpetuating?
Some of us have to be the first, unfortunately, right? So it kind of goes back to what we said about the advert. White people are used to seeing white people doing white people things, like having a roast dinner or being a barrister or heading up an international beauty brand. We're just not used to seeing Black people in these positions, in positions of power, positions of authority. And unfortunately, some people are going to have to be the first. And so if you are the first, you are going to have to deal with the backlash, with the racism, with the nonsense, with the what are you doing here, with the people not being used to you being in that position. And I purely think that's what it is. And I think because people are not used to it, so not used to seeing a Black barrister in this case, that's why it's so shocking. Now, it's disappointing that in 2020, perhaps she's rare as a Black female barrister. It really is disappointing, but we should flip it and say, okay, she is one of the first. She unfortunately will have to put up with this rubbish, but in doing that, she's breaking the glass ceilings and paving the way for people to come after her. What we are seeing is a reaction to people not being used to the status quo and the status quo being shaken. And that's brilliant that it's being shaken. It's absolutely brilliant. And like I said, unfortunately, people are going to have to be the first. So there is no level of common sense there whatsoever. That's it, you know? And people don't like seeing what they're not used to. So you're going to assume what you're used to seeing, which is, unfortunately, Black people being overrepresented in the judicial system, being overrepresented in the criminal system, and being overrepresented at these times. That is unfortunately what you're going to see.
I agree with everything that you said there, Afua. I mean, I actually did see her being interviewed by Piers Morgan, and what a wonderful young woman she is. But yeah, she's the first, especially of that age group. I do know other barristers older than her, but she's the first person I've seen coming into mainstream and being interviewed. But unfortunately, it's our norm. It's how we live. It's our norm. And as you said at the beginning, Afua, we are a minority in a majority space. And when we are put into the majority space, we're still seen as a minority. So we can't change the mindsets of everybody. All we do is do what we do, bring those that are worthy, not just because they're Black, but those that are worthy, that look like us, however we look, with us on that journey. That's all we can do.
That's right.
We can do.
Absolutely right. Now let's quickly take it back home. And I guess the question here really for both of you is, how can we raise the next generation of future leaders to own and be confident in themselves? And I ask this question because I suppose the three of us are part of statistics of growing up and not being confident because of the way we've been raised, because of the way what we've been told growing up. You've got to be seen and not heard. What can we do? And I suppose this is for those who are watching, perhaps mothers or fathers, that would be good for them to learn something. And how can we raise the future confident leaders?
I mean, for me personally, I was not brought up in that generation where I was told to be seen and not heard. I was brought up the absolute opposite, that I was to be seen, I was to be heard. I could do absolutely anything that I wanted to do. And that was instilled in me probably from the day I was born. That was on all my report cards, that I was ambitious and I was confident. So I was not brought up in the generation that were told not to be confident. That wasn't my experience and wasn't my upbringing. So that's something that I filter down to my daughter. And I think one way that we can do that is that we need them to see us being our best selves and being our confident selves and excelling at whatever it is that we do. So I always think to myself, if I'm going to do something for Naima to see, I need to be the best at doing it and doing it to the best of my ability, so that she will reflect that in her life and also be proud of mum and be proud of dad and be proud of her relatives, you know, and be proud of the people that she has around her. And I think, you know, when we think about confidence, we often think about it outwardly and we think about beauty and looks. But for me, yes, of course, I tell her that she's beautiful and everything, but it's also instilling the confidence in her to speak up when something's wrong, to speak up when something's right, to be proud of herself, to say when she doesn't want to do something and to say when she does want to do something. And also to know that whatever it is that she wants to be, at the moment she wants to be a vet and open an animal hospital, of course she does. So, you know, at the moment we're researching that and we're writing to Black female vets to ask how they did it. And, you know, she's taking, you know, bits and pieces from people that she sees around her. And, you know, she said to me one day, when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up? And I said, oh, I wanted to be a journalist. And then she said to me, your 8-year-old self must be so proud of you now. And that really got me. It really, really got me, because I thought, actually, my 8-year-old self thinks I've smashed it. So yeah, she is. You know, my 8-year-old self is super proud of me right now. And I want her daughter to have that conversation with her and to say to her, what did you want to be? And then she's done it and she's proud of herself. We can instill that in our children, but it has to start with ourselves first.
Thank you very much. How old is your daughter?
My daughter's 8. She's 8.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Eryca, if you've got something to add to that.
To answer your question, we have to teach our children about ownership. Once you own something, however you own it, once you own it, whether it be small shares, 100%, 10%, 5%, that's the level of conversations that need to be had in the classroom. It's wealth creation. And wealth creation is not necessarily about money. It's about being confident in the room and knowing that you belong in that room and you can have those conversations.
Right.
So something that I really felt it was important. That's my entrepreneurial head, because from the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I was helping my dad run his business, which was a property business. And I am also a property developer, and I've been doing that for nearly 40 years. So that's given me a quiet confidence to pursue the other things that I do. I'm not dependent on anybody else to put food on my table, but not everybody has that experience. Not everyone's had fathers like Afua and I, because I feel fathers do play a really significant part in our lives.
Afua, as a TV presenter and a journalist, this surely isn't a new territory for you. I mean, journalism isn't an area where you often find lots of Black people. What's the journey been like for yourself? How many years would you say it's taking you to finally get to where you are today?
Well, I graduated in 1999 no, I didn't. I went to uni in 1999. I moved to London in 1999 to go to university. I graduated in 2004. So 16 years. 16 years. Yeah, I've been in the industry. Yeah.
It's been a journey, but thank you so much. So, Eryca, over to you. So I've got a question for you. It's great to see the angle in which Afua came in from a career perspective, but you're an entrepreneur. What would you say? I mean, I wonder if you have experienced some of these challenges throughout your journey, and what does it mean to you?
I was discovered by accident. So I was involved in a car accident where I lost all of my hair, multiple scars to my face, and a near amputation to my left leg. The scars on my face, as far as I was concerned, was a tragedy. And there was no makeup available to help cover my scars at that particular time, especially for a dark-skinned woman. So to cut a long story short, I had to train to become a makeup artist, and I ended up being the makeup artist that people wanted, the most popular makeup artist for Black people at the time. And that was in the music and the fashion industry. So I was asked to do the makeup for up and coming, who are now celebrities, but artists at the time that were trying to find their way. But there was always a missing element for me. Always, always, always. What that was, I didn't know. But I started traveling the world. There was something in me that my heart started racing really fast, and I was able to connect with the people. I am a great believer in what we are capable of achieving, because I've gone to Africa and in various different countries, and I've seen what we do as a people. So living in the UK now, or spending time in the UK, I see how much work we have to do. And one of the things that we have to do as a community is pull and come together.
Listening to your story, Eryca, I like what you said around you pretty much had to step back to be able to step forward. I like that, because in that you're able to find yourself, you're able to find, I guess, everything you need, the confidence you need, the belief you need in yourself to be able to forge along and forge ahead. However, media still does have its own impacts on, I guess, Black lives, what people, the perception of Black families. And I say that because I watched the Sainsbury's advert yesterday night before going to bed, and we all know Sainsbury's, they've decided that over Christmas period they would showcase 3 different ethnic minority backgrounds, of which Black is one of it. And of course Twitter went ballistic. You can clearly see the racism. It just feels like you can't win. You don't do it, there's a problem. Then you try to do it, then there's a problem. And I say this because of how gruesome some of the comments are. So
this is basically about white supremacy.
Correct.
So in the United Kingdom, where I think it's 90 or 90 something % of the population is white, right? So they are the dominant population in the United Kingdom. To be presented with an idea of British that isn't white, it's physically shocking to them, and it's scary. So all the comments that were made are out of racism, but they're also out of fear that they are in some way going to become the minority by the time the advert is over. So and that is a problem. Those comments are made out of fear, and that fear is built on white supremacy. And when I say white supremacy, I'm not talking about the KKK, I'm not talking about people riding horses and wearing white hats. I'm talking about the social construct of the United Kingdom, which is white supremacy, that white people are the dominant force. So to be presented with something that is the complete opposite of what they are is scary, hence those racist comments. It's also about Britishness. What is British to people? So if you say British, you automatically think of the Queen and white people waving flags and the England football team, which are mostly made up of Black people, but that's a different story. It's a very white gaze. Britishness has a white gaze attached to it. Therefore, if you put a Black family speaking English with London accents talking about gravy, it doesn't make sense in people's heads. It's like me having a Scottish accent because I was born in Glasgow, doesn't make sense in people's heads, and people can't get their heads around it. And that's what all those comments are about. It's just completely about white supremacy. Now, for me personally, seeing that advert, I didn't necessarily see a Black family. I didn't. What I saw or what I heard was conversations that I had with my dad about gravy. And it made me cry because it made me think of conversations I'd had with my father that I can no longer have because he's no longer here. And I thought about families being separated over Christmas, and I thought about people that had lost a loved one and how hard it is. And I thought, all those Christmases that I wanted to get home to my family, and I did. That's what I thought of. I didn't sit down and think, oh, look at this lovely dark-skinned Black family. I actually did afterwards. And I guess I was like, oh, isn't it nice? Because that's another thing, is that when we do see adverts that have a quote unquote Black family, you've usually got a partnership where one person is Black and one person is white. And they're usually mixed race and lighter skinned. It's very rare that you will have a dark skinned Black family like that. And it was all of them, all in an advert like that. So it's shocking to people. And it's scary for white people to see Britishness represented through a Black glaze. They cannot get their head around it.
We have to tell our own stories to our own communities and look at those people that are doing those stories very well that look like us, if it means speaking to other countries. And the other thing that I'd like to say is that we've got to stop going to these European holidays and at least invest in our own children and our own families to go home at least once. And if you go home wherever that home is and you don't like it, then yes, you have something to argue about. But I meet so many people that haven't gone beyond their postcodes. And these are people that look like me. And as I said before, if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're coming from. So for me, it's very important to understand what you're picking up to read, what you're watching, and understanding why you're watching. One of my dearest close friends is the most prolific woman in media in Africa. She would never, ever have got that status or that opportunity if she was based in the UK or even in America. You may know her name's Moa Budu. But for her to have accomplished what she needed to accomplish, she had to tell her own stories. And that's what you need to do. And stop giving our stories away for other people to water down and then give back to us. That's not ownership.
That's how you should tell your story.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. That was absolutely amazing. I felt the energy here felt like, oh my goodness, this is like a BBC news and there's like a serious interrogation going. But I love the honesty. I love everything. I love the honesty and the genuineness of it.
We're of very much the same mind, the same experience, and very similar journeys. So if you look at Afua, just very quickly, 30 seconds, if you look at Afua and I, we are very fortunate Black women that were brought up with a mom and a dad that have been married for over 100 years. Well, not literally.
No, but probably if you put it together.
Yeah. My mom and dad's 60 years, and your mom and dad was many years before.
40 before, yeah.
Your father passed away. So there's a lot of initial commonalities anyway. And Afua and I sat down and we worked that out. It doesn't mean that we're superior to anyone else, not at all, but we've had very similar upbringings. Our morals and our ethics are very, very similar. So that's why we get on the way that we do, you know, even though I like to remind her that I am at least 13 years older than her. But
yeah, whatever.
She brings out these.
It's like, Afua, I'm thinking, that's not going to buy you anything at Sainsbury's. I'm just saying. This brings us to the end of today's conversation. Thank you so much, Afua and Eryca, for joining us today. I'm hoping that we have said a lot, probably more than was ever anticipated. But thank you so much for joining me on today's episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great afternoon.
Having us.
Have it.
Me.
It's a double whammy.
Thank you for having us. We're a couple now.
Thank you so much, Jo. Thank you. And good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We must continue to thrive for the best, despite the circumstances that may surround us. I'll end today's episode with one of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King, which says, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never, ever must we lose infinite hope." And that's it for us on today's episode. And thanks for joining me. If you have found any of our interviews or videos interesting and engaging, click the subscribe button and also turn on your notification just to make sure you never miss a thing. And don't forget to like, comment, and also share the videos with your friends and families and get them to get involved in the conversation as well.